What if pain could be measured not in screams, but in creativity? What if the darkest minds in history turned suffering into a spectacle, a twisted form of justice, power, and even entertainment? This isn't fiction. This is the horrifying reality of torture throughout history. From the iron claws of medieval Europe to the sadistic whims of kings and queens, humanity has devised ways to inflict agony that defy imagination. In this documentary, you'll witness the most brutal tortures ever conceived. Methods designed not just to kill, but to break the body and soul in the slowest, most excruciating ways possible. If you believe you understand cruelty, think again, because the past holds horrors that make modern nightmares seem tame. Hit play if you dare. It was never just a box. It was a precision-engineered nightmare, each spike placed with cruel calculation. Longer spikes pierced thighs and abdomen, shorter ones the arms and back, all carefully angled to avoid vital organs. Some versions positioned spikes at eye level, ensuring the victim's first sensation would be the hot burst of blindness before the real torment began. More sophisticated models even featured adjustable spikes, their lengths controlled by screws so torturers could prolong the agony in increments. A victim might be impaled just enough to scream, then released, left to tremble in anticipation before being sealed inside again. The psychological torment rivaled the physical. Many maidens were rumored to have false bottoms, designed to amplify the dripping sound of blood, real or imagined, trickling beneath the victim's feet. The condemned would hear each drop, certain death was coming, only to discover the spikes had barely broken skin. The true horror lay in the waiting, in the mind's ability to conjure worse pain than the body could feel. But historical accuracy matters little when confronting the Iron Maiden's legacy. Whether real or imagined, the maiden endures because it speaks to our deepest fears, not just of pain, but of being trapped, helpless, at the mercy of unfathomable cruelty. The Iron Maiden lives on in the collective imagination, a reminder that humanity's capacity for invention extends equally to art and atrocity. The story begins with a sculptor's ambition and a tyrant's hunger for cruelty. In the sun-baked streets of ancient Syracuse, Perillus, a craftsman of some renown, presented his most terrible creation to Phalaris, the ruler whose name would become synonymous with barbarity. It stood there, gleaming dully in the Mediterranean light, a life-sized bull cast entirely in bronze, its hollow belly waiting like an open mouth. The design was deceptively simple, almost elegant in its horror. A person could be placed inside, the door sealed shut, and then the fire would be lit below. But the true genius, the true madness, lay in what happened next. As the metal heated, the screams of the dying would rise through a series of carefully crafted pipes, twisting agony into something else entirely. The shrieks of a man being roasted alive emerged from the bull's nostrils as deep, resonant tones, like the bellowing of an animal. It was a perversion of art, a way to make suffering not just visible, but audible, a grotesque performance where the victim's own voice became part of their torment. Phalaris, the tyrant, was delighted. He demanded a demonstration, and here, the story takes its darkest turn. The sculptor, so proud of his invention, suddenly found himself seized by the ruler's guards, forced into the belly of the beast he had created. The last thing Perillus heard before the door closed was laughter. The fire crackled to life beneath him, and soon the air filled with a sound that was neither fully human nor fully animal, but a distorted, metallic cry that might have been mistaken for song, if not for the knowledge of what made it. The dungeon air hangs thick with sweat and iron as the victim is dragged forward. Before them rises a simple, terrible structure, a wooden pyramid, its apex honed to a razor point. The executioners strip away the prisoner's clothing, leaving them vulnerable to the cold stone floor and colder stairs. Hands bound, they are hoisted above the device, their bodies suspended for one terrible moment before gravity takes over. The first contact is deceptive, just pressure, just discomfort. Then, the weight of their own body begins its slow work. The pyramid's point parts flesh, millimeter by excruciating millimeter. There is no quick impalement here. This is torture by precision. The victim's legs are forced wide by the pyramid's widening sides, muscles screaming as tendons stretch beyond endurance. Some executioners would add weights to ankles, increasing the relentless downward pressure. Others would rock the victim gently back and forth, making the wooden point grind against bone. In more sophisticated chambers, the Judas cradle wore different faces. Some versions capped the pyramid with red-hot iron, transforming the torture into a branding session that seared even as it pierced. Others placed the device over pits of freezing water, where victims would be dunked between sessions of impalement, the sudden temperature shock keeping them conscious through unbearable pain. Historical records suggest the Spanish Inquisition favored this method for its ability to break heretics without leaving obvious marks of torture. The wounds, while catastrophic internally, could be hidden beneath clothing during interrogations. But like many medieval torture devices, its actual use may have been less widespread than popular history suggests. The true horror of the Judas cradle may lie in how perfectly it represents humanity's capacity to engineer suffering, turning simple wood and gravity into instruments of unthinkable pain. The crowd gathers in the town square, their murmurs a mix of morbid fascination and fearful reverence. At its center stands the instrument of today's justice, a massive wooden wheel, mounted horizontally, like some cruel parody of a carnival attraction. The condemned man is dragged forward, his face already slick with terror sweat as they strap him spread eagle across the wheel's face. The executioner steps forward, hefting his iron-shod crushing bar. There's a practiced rhythm to his movements. This is not rage, but ritual. The first swing comes down on the right shin, with a wet crack that makes children in the crowd gasp. The bone shatters, but the skin remains deceptively intact. Next, the left shin, then methodically upward, knees, thighs, elbows, each strike delivered with precision to maximize pain, while carefully avoiding fatal organs. By the time the executioner reaches the ribs, the victim's limbs hang like sacks of gravel, their contents reduced to bone shards swimming in pulped muscle. Some victims lose consciousness only to be revived with vinegar or salt for the next round. The most skilled executioners could keep a man conscious through all 33 traditional blows, a number said to represent the years of Christ's life. What makes the wheel particularly chilling is its transformation of the human body into something else entirely. No longer a person, but a living sculpture of suffering. A testament to the fact that in early modern Europe, death was never enough. Justice demanded spectacle, demanded that the community see what happened to those who transgressed. The dungeon's chill clung to the metal as the torturer selected his instrument. The pear of anguish lay gleaming on the table, an unassuming object, really. A simple metal bulb divided into segments, its screw mechanism almost delicate in appearance. But every prisoner knew what happened when that screw turned. The victim's wrists strained against their bonds as the device approached. Whether mouth, rectum, or vagina always came as a shock. Then the torturer's hand began rotating the screw, slowly, methodically. At first, just pressure. Then the segments began to separate. The expanding metal forced its way outward, tearing tissue with mechanical indifference. Some versions bore small spikes that hooked into tender flesh, ensuring the damage would be catastrophic when removed. Victims described the sensation as being split apart from the inside, their screams muffled by the very device destroying them. Particularly cruel was its precision. Unlike the messy brutality of the wheel or the rack, this was torture with surgical exactness. A torturer could control exactly how much damage was inflicted with each turn of the screw. Some records suggest interrogators would alternate between expansion and contraction, prolonging the agony over days. Historians still debate how widely the pear was actually used. Many museum specimens appear to be 19th century fabrications created to satisfy the era's fascination with medieval cruelty. Yet its persistence in popular imagination speaks volumes about our collective nightmares. As the torturer wiped blood from the device after another successful session, the dungeon walls absorbed silent promises. This instrument wouldn't just extract confessions, it would leave reminders no victim could ever forget. Torture was never just about punishment, it was about control. These devices were more than tools of pain, they were instruments of power, wielded by kings to crush dissent, by churches to enforce dogma, and by societies to purge their deepest fears. Each spike, each screw, each agonizing mechanism served a purpose beyond suffering. It was a message, carved into flesh and bone, reminding all who dared resist, this could be you. The Iron Maiden's spikes, the Brazen Bull's flames, the Judas Cradle's slow impalement, they were not just methods of execution, but theater. Public spectacles designed to break not just bodies but spirits, to turn pain into a performance and fear into a weapon. Yet even as we recount these horrors, we must ask, how much of this cruelty still lingers? Not in the dungeons of history, but in the systems of today. The methods may have changed, but the intent remains: to silence, to subjugate, to remind the powerless of their place. If this journey into humanity's darkest corners has unsettled you, then remember, these stories must be told, not to glorify suffering, but to ensure it is never repeated. Leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell, not for the horror, but for the history, because the past's whispers can become the future's warnings. Thanks for watching, and remember, the true horror isn't in the metal of these devices, but in the minds that created them. Some terrors fade with time, others live on not in iron, but in memory. And memory is the only thing standing between us and history's repetition.